Welcome back to another episode of How It Works. My name is Ken Baker from Green Pro Solutions, and today we're going to be talking about the reel system on what we call the Titan 1 or cab over Isuzu. This has a volume about 800 gallons. We won't get so much into that just yet, but this particular vehicle has two reels. Some of them have three reels. We use Hannay Reels on these units. A few features with the Hannay Reels is that we have a tethered button, which we can, pull on your hose, and you can use it with either hand and have better control of your hose. With these reels, we have a roller system, a 4-point roller system that allows you to be able to pull the hose in different directions without wear of the hose and be able to protect the integrity of the corners of your vehicle. Each of these have a junction box here, which most of this wiring you will really not need to get into except for troubleshooting. And that will be another episode to how to fix these or maintain these. You do have a box up here which is called the RCB, or remote circuit breaker. There's a button on the side of this here that if for some reason you are pulling your hose in and it gets caught on a tire or a shrub and there's a lot of resistance there, there's a breaker right on the back side of here that would blow. Now there's also a secondary breaker which is on this electrical panel, and it will say 3/8 reel, 5/8 reel, and this too could blow. So it has a redundant protective system to protect these reels in case you're pulling it in, like I said, it gets caught around a shrub and around a tire or whatever. So that's a really good feature. These reels have a swivel head. These need to be maintained with grease. You can see the fitting on the end of here. It's very important when you put your grease in there once a year, twice a year, depending on the usage. Just a little bit. You don't want to squeeze it. So traditionally people squeeze it to see it gushing out. If you do that, you would damage your diaphragm and your bushing inside there, and it will ruin the fitting, and then it will wear very, very quickly. They have, on this particular system, this reel, the 3/8 reel, is connected to both of these manifolds, which we'll get into in a later episode. So it gives the ability, this particular reel, that both ends have one-way valves. There's an arrow here. So both of these pumps can utilize this reel through either of these two manifolds. Again, we'll get into that later in other episodes. But just so you know what some of these components are, you can build these in a way that, again, both engines and both manifolds can utilize this 3/8. Now this one over here is a 5/8 hose. It's much bigger. So this one is independent of this one. This here has a high pressure line coming off the back here, which goes to the manifold. These hoses are very high pressure, about 1,000 psi, very, very durable. This hose itself, again, can be utilized with 3/8 hose, and this is a 300 foot. You can put up to 400 feet on this as well, depending on what the customer chooses. What we do recommend with these hoses for long-term longevity is every season pull the complete hose out, turn it around, and put this end on the spool and just turn it around, because typically on average is 1 to 200 feet get pulled out on average, and it wears more so on one side compared to what's still on the drum. So we recommend that you take it out once a season and turn it around. Another feature with these maintenance with these hoses is try to pull the hose in when it's still under pressure. What happens is if you let the pressure out, and over time the integrity of the hose starts to flatten. And then when you're putting tension on it, it will start pulling onto the reel and the hose will flatten. Especially if you pull out all 300 or 400 feet, the first few layers will collapse on itself, which would be restricting the hose. If you only pulled 100 feet out, the flow would not be the same because you're restricting it further in on the hose. So we always recommend, when you're using it, keep it under pressure, pull it in, and then let the pressure off. It really saves the long-term integrity of your hose. Now with the Green Pro, what we do is we have these fittings here, which we call a reusable hose end. What's neat about these is in the field, if you cut your hose, it gets worn, is you take a wrench on this part and this part and you turn them off. And this piece will go on first counterclockwise, and this has a cone and it goes on the inside, and you go to tighten it, you're done. You fix your hose in a matter of minutes. This particular customer wants, they like to have a brass ball valve here that they can turn it off, put new guns on, whatever they want to do. It also has a brass quick disconnect, which you have the male end onto your gun for quick access and removal. So again, we can adapt this to whatever liking it is for the end user. As I said, there's a 5/8 reel here. It's duplicate to this. It just has a different type of hose. And the reason why there's different types of sizes of hoses is that there's different size pumps, which we'll get into at a later episode with this. Is that with a smaller hose, you would typically, smaller engine, which has a smaller pump, smaller gallons per minute, would be required to use smaller diameter hose. If you were to use it on the 5/8 hose, it doesn't have the capacity to use it to its fullest extent. You wouldn't get the volume and the height that you're looking for. So it's very important that you select the hose depending on what kind of volume and height that you're looking for. So with that said, if you wanted to go with this engine and this pump, which has a bigger pump, you'd go definitely with a 5/8 because you can get more volume and you get more height. Typically with this pump and motor and this 5/8 hose, you can make it up to 75 feet using that type of application. So these reels, like I said, are very durable. They're through Hannay. Each one has its own serial number and VIN for warranty. They have a very good warranty process and warranty on their equipment. So I think that's it with the hose reels. Thank you for joining us for another episode of How It Works.